Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down the 11-game NBA slate we have on DraftKings for Friday night. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this weekend. So if you can hit that like button, it really helps out my channel, it pushes out my videos. And if you could hit that subscribe button, do greatly appreciate it. Trying to hit that 1K mark, it'd be great. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, I'm going to be going over my favorite spin-up plays, some mid-range options we can look at, and some value plays for this 11-game slate. Another big slate, super excited. Check out my Patreon, link down below for my write-up for tomorrow. I'll be going over a bunch of stuff there, but yeah, hit the like button. I'll see you guys in the slate breakdown. Before I get into the breakdown, just want to say follow me on Twitter at DFS. Put up all my write-ups on Patreon, price pick plays, talk DFS, NFL, NBA, all that good stuff. If you click on my link in my YouTube video in the description or on my Twitter, it can take you to my free Patreon where I just go a little bit more in depth from my videos on my favorite spin-up plays. I'll do a recap, which the cores have been great the past 3 days. Obviously today was a showdown slate, so it was a little bit different, but yeah, I go over my recap, talk about my favorite plays, my cores, my value plays. The core for tonight's showdown was actually very, very solid. Bogdan ended up being the optimal captain. Tim Hardaway Jr. had a huge game, but yeah, if you played Wood, Luka, Bogdan, and Duran, you should have easily been able to cash, unless you played Dinwiddie, but I don't think it would have left you with enough money to get to Dinwiddie unless you played like some guy who's like $200 that wouldn't have played. So yeah, this core should have led you guys to cash. I know a few guys reached out to me and said they did, so that's fantastic. Love seeing that. Love being able to help you guys out there. And yeah, let's get into the slate breakdown. We got a big one. So starting off with Washington and Charlotte. And the first thing I noticed about this slate, guys, is that a lot of people are way too cheap. Not really sure why DraftKings kind of lowered down the prices for a bunch of people, but that's something we're going to have to deal with. There's a ton of plays I like, so let's go through this. Washington, Charlotte, as I said, number one option, Porzingis on this team. He's been great the past week and a half, even with Beal coming back. I mean, he went off for 41 real life points. Followed that up in a 58 fantasy point outing against Brooklyn. Almost had 20 rebounds, almost a 20-20 game. So if you want to ride the hot streak with Porzingis against Charlotte, obviously the price isn't the best on him, but I mean, he's performing great right now. Don't mind going there. Has a very solid spin-up play at center. The rest of the team, Beal, Kuzma, they're just kind of there. Kuzma's price did come down. Denny, 4,800. Don't really think you need to force that. I mean, there'll be value plays that open up on this slate, so I really don't think you need to get to anyone on this team unless you're going to go to Porzingis, maybe taking a random dart throw shot on a guy like Beal or Kuzma, but yeah, not much interest. Morris, I guess, is always there. His minutes are all over the place. I mean, Goodwin's a decent value play there at 3,900. Don't mind that, but I'm sure there'll be a lot safer values coming out tomorrow with all the injury news. On to Charlotte. LaMelo's still out. So Terry Rozier, we know what we're going to get from him. Huge minutes. He's going to shoot the ball a ton. It just comes down if he can hit a shot. And right now, he really hasn't been able to. So just keep that in mind. I do like the price point. His usage is great. He's usually a very solid point per minute guy. It's just he can't hit a shot. So do have a good amount of interest in Terry. The rest of the team is just kind of there for me. Oubre, a little too pricey for me, but, he's shooting the ball a ton. So he looks okay. PJ, I mean, his price is solid. It's just, Terry's going to, have a ton of usage. Same with Kelly. PJ does have some upside, but not very interested in him at 5,500. Plumlee, I don't mind going to Plumlee. He has had some solid games this season. It's not the worst matchup going against Porzingis, so you could definitely, do a little punt play at 5,300 with Plumlee. And that's about it. McDaniels is just kind of there. A little too pricey as a value play. Theo is priced up as well. He's playing some decent minutes, but yeah, not a lot I like on that Charlotte side. They are pretty short-handed, so you could look to Theo, but his prices came up a ton. Nick Richards is there, playing still like 20-ish minutes. Kai Jones, going to play about 20-ish minutes. Not the best point per minute guy, but you could go to him at 3,400. Moving on to Miami and Boston. They just played yesterday, and it was actually a very, very fun game to watch. Both teams just did not play defense. Jimmy is questionable. We'll see if he has to play. I'm assuming he probably will, just because he was going to play in that game yesterday, but they pushed it back to tomorrow. So I would assume he's in, but we'll have to see. If he's in, Then I don't like much at their prices. Maybe Hero still at 7,300. He does have some big upside, but with Jimmy back, you would see him kind of handle the ball more offensively. So just not a lot I like with Jimmy coming back. The rest of these guys, Hero should be good. Stru should be good as well. So the whole team is finally going to be back, and with that, there's not a lot of interest besides maybe taking a shot on a guy like Tyler Hero, or I guess Bam. But yeah, not great prices with everyone back. On the Boston side, Tatum, we know what we're getting from him. Obviously he would have looked great if Brown was out. Brown got ruled in, but Tatum still went off for 49 fantasy points, or real life points, 76 fantasy points. So Tatum has that upside. He's been very, very solid and safe this year as a spend up. So if you want to get to him, don't mind it. But I just think there's better game environments to kind of put him in, or to play people in. So don't know if I'm going to go to Tatum. Brown, his price came down to 8,000. I think that's a solid price for Jaylen Brown. Obviously, he's kind of capped around that 45-ish fantasy point mark, but he can go over if he's shooting really well or doing well peripheral stat wise. So I do have a little bit of my eye on him. The rest of the team smart, just a tournament play there to get contrarian in that 5K range. Same thing with Brogdon. He's been shooting the ball fantastic the past couple of games. It's just the minutes aren't there. So at 5,300, even though it's a solid price tag, you want more minutes out of him. I guess I have a little bit of interest out of Al Horford. 5,200. He's playing about 30 minutes, depending on how the team's doing, if it's a blowout or not. But yeah, he's a solid point per minute guy. Obviously not going to shoot the ball a ton, but at 5,200, you could definitely get 30, 35 fantasy points out of him. And if he's having a really good game, 40s or 50s, depending on how he's shooting it. So don't mind going to him. That'd probably be my favorite play on this Boston side. On to Orlando and Cleveland. We're about to get to one of the first plays that's very, very, very cheap, and I'm not sure why. But yeah, Paolo at 7,800. We know the offense is going to flow through him. 35 minutes. Everything's there. It just comes down to if he's going to do the peripheral stats and kind of hit his shots. If he is, he does have upside into the 50, 60 range. But as of right now, he's just kind of a little too all over the place for me at 7,800. Don't think he's a must play or a need to play. That kind of goes for the rest of the team. Bobo's there. He has some flashes. Franz, he can flash some upside, but I just don't think there's any priorities or needs to play anyone on this Orlando side, especially going against this very, very solid defensive team in Cleveland. So if you want to, I'd say you go to maybe a guy like, I'd say really only Paolo, but then again, now we have Fultz back, Anthony's back, guys that, do shoot the ball. They do carry some usage with them. So just not a ton I like with the prices and kind of everyone back on this Orlando side and the matchup. On Cleveland, this was what I'm talking about. Garland's 8,500. Mitchell is 8,400. I'm not sure why they dropped his price down $500. It was two blowouts back to back, and you're going to drop his price down from about 9,000 to 8,400. Yeah, he looks great here at 8,400. Really like that price tag on him. That's way too cheap. I think the same thing with Garland. He's very, very solid. Just really hope this game stays close. There's probably going to be some blowout risk. But yeah, I really like Mitchell. The rest of the team are just kind of there. Mobley, if Allen's still out, looks very, very solid as like their center play. We saw the 2 games prior that didn't blow out. Massive upside, 20 and 13, 18 and 15. So I do really like our Mobley there as well at 7,000. The rest of the team's kind of there. You can always punt play with Kevin Love, but his thumb's kind of been messing with the shot. Karis LeVert did well in the blowouts. Seti and Dean Wade are decent values, but I'm sure better ones will open up, but you can definitely keep those in mind. Dean Wade, not going to be a high usage guy when he's out there, but can do enough to pay off that price tag. That's about it. On to Denver and Atlanta. We got Jokic 11-4. Fantastic spend up. You just really hope the game stays close. I unfortunately played him last game against Houston, and it blew out once again. It was a 30-point game by halftime, which is frustrating. He still almost got a triple-double and 50 fantasy points in 28 minutes. So it's just one of those things. Atlanta is a little bit shorthanded. You would think they'd be able to still keep it close with DeJounte, Trey, and Capella, but we'll have to see. But yeah, I really like Jokic there. Another great matchup against Capella. Murray, coming off of 2 very solid games shooting the ball. Obviously 2 blowouts kind of hindered his upside, but I do have some interest in him. He's kind of rounding back into form of Jamal Murray of old, so he's one of those guys, should see at least 30 fantasy points in a bad game. If he's having a good game, 40, 50 plus, 7,100, very solid price tag on him. The rest of the team just kind of there. Really like getting Aaron Gordon if one of the main guys is out. MPJ is still out, so that means, Bruce Brown's going to slide in the starting lineup. I think he looks very solid, 5,900. Price came down a little bit. This is kind of the upside he has into the mid-30s, even 40s if he's doing well defensively. Not going to shoot the ball a ton. I'd say around maybe 8 to 10, but he could easily pay off that price tag. So he looks solid there at 5,900. The rest of the team is just kind of there for me. No real priorities or needs. Ish Smith seeing about 20-ish minutes with Bones Highland being out. But Bones is most likely back, so don't think Ish is going to get those minutes, but you can punt play if you want to. But yeah, it's really just Jokic, Murray, and Bruce Brown. On to Atlanta. We have Trae Young, 9,700. You just hope this game stays close. I think it will. So Trae Young, obviously a decent spin-up play there. He hasn't really been popular in the DFS space this year yet, so he will be loaned. DeJounte Murray starting to come back into form. Don't mind him there. I'd rather obviously get down to a guy like Donovan Mitchell at 8,400 than pay for a guy like DeJounte Murray at 88. Capella is questionable. We'll have to keep an eye out on this. If he's in, I do like him. Obviously, there is some foul trouble. Capella is pretty foul prone, but he does have huge double-double upside. So if he can stay out of foul trouble and he plays, he should see most likely at least 30 minutes because they're pretty short-handed. Hopefully get some more. So I do have interest there. He's pretty cheap for his upside potential. John Collins is out. Bogdan is questionable. If he's back, we'll probably see 20-ish minutes, 15 to 20 coming off that injury. So I don't think we have to worry about him. Doesn't really affect, the top guys at all. And then for the value, AJ Griffin most likely going to slide into the starting lineup. He's going to be a very solid play there at 4,500. He should see, close to 30 minutes, if not more. Not going to be a high usage guy, but I do think we can kind of expect 10 shots out of him. He's very solid defensively, so he'll do the peripheral stats. It just comes down to if he can hit some shots. So I do like him a good amount. Okongwu most likely will still come off the bench. He should see, maybe a few more minutes. He's seen about 20-ish right now. I'd expect maybe 23, 24. So he looks like an okay value play there. Maybe Culver gets to start. He did play 30 minutes. He actually did well off the bench. So I'm assuming they'll slide Culver and Griffin into the starting lineup alongside Trae, DeJounte, and Capella. But we'll have to get official news on that. But yeah, I do like both of them. I prefer getting into AJ Griffin just because he seems like a better fit, a little bit better of a player. But Culver does have some upside. Jalen Johnson, if he's good to go, I'm assuming they'll probably start Griffin and him over Culver. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But I do like all three of the wings. That's really it. Yeah. So there's a good amount of interest there in the value for Atlanta. Moving on to the Lakers and Milwaukee. Not the best matchup for the Lakers. So I do think a lot of these Lakers guys will probably go pretty under-owned. But, Davis and LeBron, we know what we're getting from them. I prefer getting to Anthony Davis just with how he's been playing recently. So I do like him a good amount. Russ, just kind of there as a contrarian play. Not getting enough minutes to really pay off that price tag. Walker, the rest of the team's just kind of there. I don't see the need to get to anyone. You could go to Reeves. He's been playing well, but it's really just the top guys for me. Schroeder in the minutes. Thomas Bryant came off, played 20 minutes, was actually very productive, but just don't love the matchup. Don't see the need to get to anyone on this side if you're not going to one of the top guys, because with the value opening up, I just don't think there's a need to force any Laker guys in besides the top two. Giannis, obviously a great matchup here going against the Lakers. He looks solid if you can get up to him. Middleton is back, so it will take a little bit of usage away from a guy like Drew Holiday. So with him back, he should see 15 to 20 minutes. I still think Holiday is viable, and the rest of the guys, especially Giannis will always be viable, but it comes down to the rest of the guys. I still think they'll be viable, but there's really not a lot of interest as of right now for me to get to any of them. Holiday's price is still a little bit too cheap. He does have value, even playing alongside all three or both the other two big men, but yeah, not a lot of interest. Bobby Portis, he should come off the bench, play about 25 to 30 minutes. He's solid, coming off the bench against the Lakers, he should have his way with those backups. So I think my favorite play would be him. That's about it. Value, I mean, Pat Connaughton will probably be the best value play. Otherwise, everyone else is kind of priced up. Javon Carter, his minutes will probably tick down a little bit, maybe closer to 25. So I don't think there's a need to play him on Milwaukee or really in that game at all. Brooklyn and Toronto. And I love this game. I'm sure it'll be decently popular. We'll have to see. But Pascal is way too cheap here. I talked about how I really liked him if he was off the minutes limit last game. He was. Unfortunately, the game kind of blew out, so he did lose he lost a few minutes, even though it doesn't really look like it because it was pretty much a blowout. They did come back a little bit in the end and at the fourth quarter, so it did allow him to get back in and get a few more points. But yeah, he looks fantastic. He had a triple-double against them at the beginning of the season, 72.5 fantasy points. So I just think his price tag is a little bit too cheap here. 9,300. Pretty much the cheapest we've gotten him since the start of the season. So I love Pascal here. You really want to target Brooklyn. So love Pascal. And then with him back, obviously, it really takes away the interest of OG. It takes the interest away of Scotty, with them being just kind of the secondary wings. Don't think there's a need to get some. I do have interest in Van Fleet. Even if he shoots the ball terribly, he'll still be able to kind of at least get you to at least 30, 35 fantasy points, depending on if he's going to shoot. Obviously, that last game blew out. Didn't shoot the ball well, so he really didn't play much towards the end. But, he usually has a pretty solid floor. Even playing alongside the starting five, he should see a ton of minutes and a ton of shot opportunities, especially from three. So I do have a little bit of interest in him. His price tag is getting a little bit too cheap there. I mean, the rest of the team, Boucher's always worth a dart throw off the bench if you want to, but his price is a little bit too high. Gary Trent had a huge game. He was the one that brought him back. Don't think I could trust that. Coming off the bench, I get 5,000, looks okay, but it's really just, Pascal for me. And then if you want to get a little bit funky, get to Van Fleet. Brooklyn side, KD, he looks solid as a spend-up play. Kyrie has just been super, super frustrating this year. Nice to see him shoot 21 times. He's shooting the ball a ton. It's just, he's not really he's just not scoring enough, to be able to play him. So 8,200, I do like the price tag. It's just, will he be able to score enough to pay off this price tag and be worth it? I'd say probably, we're going to get a Kyrie game here soon where he goes for like 40 fantasy points, or 40 real life points. I know I know the Pistons, not the Pistons, can't even talk. I know Toronto's a tough matchup, but I kind of do have interest in Kyrie, and it's scaring me because he's destroyed me the past 4 games of playing him. But yeah, I do like him a good amount. Claxton does have some decent upside. He should get all the minutes he can get, but he is very foul prone. Don't really trust him going against these, pretty solid, lanky Toronto bigs. So just kind of there for me. Royce O'Neal, we know we're getting from him. Should see pretty much the whole game in terms of minutes. He can do everything, stuff the stat sheet. So I do have a little bit of interest there if you're getting to a guy in the 5K range. TJ Warren is back, so I'm assuming he'll get 15 to 20 minutes, kind of like the normal amount for a guy coming off injury. I'm assuming that, most likely that's going to take away from, we'll see what they do with the starting lineup, but that's going to take some usage away from guys like Joe Harris, Seth Curry, pretty much all those secondary guys. I don't think it'll affect, KD or Kyrie at all. Maybe a little bit of Royce O'Neal, but yeah, with him back, it kind of messes up that whole secondary pieces from the Brooklyn side. Moving on to the last couple games. Philly and Memphis. Embiid looks fantastic here, 11.3. We know what we're getting from him. Everything's going to flow through him. So 11.3, love the price tag there. Going against Memphis. Harden, he's still out for this weekend, so same with Maxey. Melton's price dropped down to 7,200. I just don't see the need to play any of these guys. Obviously, if Tobias Harris, it does open up some value, but I'd stay still. If you want to take a shot on Milton. Otherwise, it's pretty much just Embiid for me. Value is just not really the best value right now, just because Embiid's back. On the Memphis side, Ja, 10.8. We know we're getting from Ja, the classic spend-up play. Jaren Jackson Jr., I do like him a good amount here. Most likely won't have to guard Embiid. That's Steven Adams' job, so he's very foul prone. He lost some minutes due to foul trouble in that last game, which is frustrating because I played him. and he only had like 20 minutes going into the fourth quarter. But yeah, his minutes should be in that 30 range, maybe a little bit more. He still is working his way back from injury, but I do like him a good amount there at 7,000. He has massive, massive upside. Pretty much has scored 20 plus points every game back besides the last one because of foul trouble. But yeah, I mean, that's the only downside with him is his foul trouble issues. Otherwise, he is massive, massive upside. So I do like him here at 7,000. Rest of the team is, just kind of priced about right. Steven Adams, always a tournament option there, but you don't love him going up against Embiid. I mean, that's really it. The value isn't the best. This whole team just kind of goes through Ja and now Jaren Jackson, and then Brooks kind of gets the scraps. Moving on to the Pelicans. Zion, top, looks solid. Ingram's still out. CJ's most likely back, so I think my favorite play would be CJ here, 7,600. Minutes shouldn't be an issue. They're going against the Spurs, which you do like to target. So I think CJ looks great. I don't mind getting a J-Val. He did see 26 minutes. He has massive, massive upside. It just comes down to if you think he's going to get the minutes. He hasn't so far this season, but I do like taking a shot there, especially against, I think Jakob Poeltl's still out. Yeah. He's still going to be out. So, I mean, Zach Collins trying to guard, Valanciunas. Love that matchup. It just depends on if Valanciunas can stay out of foul trouble and if he can get at least 30 minutes. So keep an eye out on J-Val. Really like that price tag there in that matchup. With CJ back, Murphy, Alvarado, all these secondary guys are just a little bit too pricey. Only other favorite play would be Nance, because if you think J-Val's going to get in foul trouble, they're going to close with Nance. He should see at least 15 to 20 minutes off the bench usually. If J-Val's in foul trouble, he should see closer to 25, maybe even 30 if he's doing well. So keep that in mind. He's into a very cheap price tag there. On the Spurs side, Vassell, Keldon Johnson. I prefer it into Keldon. He hasn't been shooting the ball great, but he's going to shoot the ball a ton. So, he has a decent amount of upside, playing a ton of minutes. Just hope this game stays close, really. But yeah, they both look solid. Just prefer getting to Keldon for the price difference. Trey Jones is just kind of there. I just don't like playing him. Collins' price came up a little bit. He's very foul prone, so two centers that are very foul prone going against each other. Good luck with that. Going to be an absolute nightmare. But the price tag is solid. He's a very good point per minute guy. It's just he played 27 minutes, got in foul trouble, 22 fantasy points. He can get you in the 30s if he's doing well. It's going to be tough for him. He's very, very foul prone. Richardson, it looks like a decent, value play off the bench. Same thing with McDermott. I'd say maybe my favorite play would be, I don't even know. Bassey didn't even get many minutes with Zach Johnson in foul trouble, or Zach Collins. Bates Diop, is a solid value play. But yeah, not a ton I really like on this gross Spurs side. On to Indiana and Utah. Halliburton, 9,600. Very solid price tag for him. Coming off a very bad game there. I do like a bounce back spot here, but he's questionable, so let's keep an eye out on that. Turner, do like him a good amount. The bigs usually seem to do good against Utah. Kelly Olynyk can't guard. Vanderbilt can't. Laurie can't. So coming off a terrible game, do like a bounce back opportunity here for Miles Turner as well. And same thing with Buddy Hield. All three of them had a bad game. Buddy's been bad for the past week and a half. We know he has huge upside into the 40-plus range. So I think all three of them are a great interest to me. Benedict Mathurin, just, a tournament play there. Very score independent. Smith, it just comes down to if he's going to get, close to 30 minutes. If he is, he has massive, massive upside. But as recently, he's not. So it's very hard to trust, but the price tag is solid on him. That's about it. McConnell, seeing the backup point guard run. He's floating between 15 to 22. Nembhard, seeing about 25, but he's not a high usage guy at all. Neesmith, seeing about 20-ish minutes. So the value is just not the best here on the Indiana side. On the Utah side, we have Laurie at the top at 7,900. He looks solid. Clarkson looks decent. Don't love the price tags in either one of them, even though they do have some decent upside. Olenek's just kind of there for me. Sexton, same thing, kind of there. Beasley hasn't been shooting the ball well the past few games. I'd say him and Sexton are still going to be my favorite plays. And that's really about it. Vanderbilt's just kind of there. Just not a ton of interest on this Utah team. They really haven't caught my eye all season, besides, Beasley and Sexton. And then moving on to Houston and Phoenix. Houston side, KPJ, Jalen Green, Sengun all look solid. Smith is just more of a contrarian play if you want to get off of one of the two main stars. But yeah, one of those teams, once again, I don't have a ton of interest in. You know, they have cheap value, but it's usually the whole offense is just coming from KPJ, Green, and Sengun with a little bit of Smith sprinkled in. You know, KJ Martin's been solid as a guy off the bench, but yeah, not a lot of interest in this Houston side besides kind of the main three. On the Phoenix side, I mean, Devin Booker, past 2 games, I talked about him in my write-ups. He's been fantastic. I mean, we're getting the Houston Rockets, probably the best, arguably the best matchup in the league, and a guy who's been the best player the past 2 games in the league. So if you want to go for 3 straight games, don't hate that. Looks fantastic. Same thing with Ayton. He's been kind of flying under the radar with how good he's been the past week. Yeah, I mean, they both look fantastic. It just, you know, will they continue the hot streak or will they bust? I'm sure they'll get a lot more ownership now because of how well they're doing. I do think people will still be scared of that Booker price tag just because, you know, he is kind of iffy at times when he's that high. But yeah, I do like both of them a good amount. Rest of the team just kind of there. You know, Payne would probably be the 3rd favorite play for me, but that's really it. And then moving on to the last game, Chicago and Golden State. Good amount of interest in all 3 of the main guys for the Bulls. I prefer getting to Vooch and Levine, but we know all 3 have huge upside. DeRozan is going to be the safest play. Pat Williams, very solid value play here. You know, past 2 games hasn't been great, but he should get you at least 20 fancy points, maybe a little bit more if he's playing well. Io, just kind of there. Drummond's just, you know, huge dart throw. It's really just kind of the main 3 for me, and then Pat Williams for some value. I mean, Kobe White, you can throw him in there, but don't feel great about that. And then Dragic, yeah, it's really just kind of the main 3, and then value is going to be Pat Will. And then for Golden State, talked about how the Bulls, in my write-up, I talked about how the Bulls usually give the star player, they let him go for like 50, and that's what Devin Booker just did to them. So I love Steph Curry here at 10-7. I like Andrew Wiggins a good amount too. You know, he hasn't been great the past 2 games. Yeah, I mean, don't think anyone on the Bulls are going to be able to guard either one of them. Green's just a tournament play. Don't mind Klay Thompson. You know, the Bulls give up a ton of threes. Klay could catch fire and go off for like 40 real-life points. So, you know, we saw him, shoot 13 threes on the Bulls, you know, 2-3 years ago. The rest of the team just kind of there. Looney, don't mind him. You know, he'll have to body up against Vooch. So, you know, he should see about 20-ish minutes, maybe a little bit more. That's about it. You know, I do like Curry and Wiggins a good amount. And then Thompson's always a very solid tournament option. And then Looney's just there. So, going back to kind of highlight my favorite plays, we got Mitchell, 8,400. We obviously have Pascal. Value play, let's go to Atlanta. We'll just do Griffin for now. We'll throw him in there. And one more play. We'll go to Buddy Hield. Kind of gross, but yeah. Yeah, so right now, as I said, there's just a ton of guys who are a little bit too cheap, coming off of, you know, some bad performances, guys that are usually doing good, or usually have, you know, high ceilings that are coming off of like week-long bad performances. So there's a lot of areas we can go with this slate. I think it's one of those where, you know, you can definitely spend 9,000 or less on the lineup and have huge upside. It's going to be a bunch of value opening up. So yeah, if you guys liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.